Welcome to Zimbabwe's television network. I'm Owen Kaura. Thank you very much for joining us on this very special broadcast brought to you by ZTN in partnership with the Zimbabwe Environmental Law Association. Now, the United Nations has proclaimed May 22 the International Day for Biological Diversity, also known as IDB, to increase understanding and awareness of biodiversity issues. As we commemorate the day, we as ZTN have seen it fit to unpack this topical issue. And as usual, we value your participation, so feel free to air your views as we progress. But to help us understand biodiversity, we've invited experts who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves shortly. And I'll start with the lady to my right here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me in this program. My name is Zelas. I'm with the Environmental Management Agency. I work as the Environmental Education and Publicity Manager.
Thank you very much, Amkela. And moving on, the lady in red.
Thank you very much, Owen. My name is Fadzai. I'm with the Zimbabwe Environmental Law Association. I work as a program assistant, focusing on extractives and environmental management. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Fadzai. And moving on.
Thank you very much, Owen. My name is Diana Tapedzanyika, and I'm an ecologist by profession, and I'm here representing Zimbabwe Youth Biodiversity Network.
Thanks very much, Diana. And now, last but certainly not least.
Thank you, Owen. My name is Sharon Zaro, and I'm with Young Volunteers Association. I am a law student at MSU.
Great. So there you have it, ladies panel. I'm the only gentleman, which is going to be very exciting. Now, this year's Biodiversity Day 2021 theme is we are part of the solution. It was chosen to maintain the momentum generated under last year. Last year's theme was our solutions are in nature. Now, given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Biodiversity Day 2021 will be commemorated through an online-only campaign. And as we dive deeper into the matter, maybe we need to start off from just a very simple place. And I'll start with you, Amkela. What is biodiversity?
Thank you so much, Owen. I like the way our themes, they are structured, because if you look at 2020, our themes, especially the UN themes, they were all about to do with nature. And this time we are deep diving into looking at what we can do for nature. And then now looking at biodiversity, we are just looking at the complexities and the variables that are there on Earth, looking at even the interrelationship that is there between the organisms that we find on the Earth's surface, especially looking at both flora and fauna. And usually when we talk about biodiversity, people want to believe that we need to always look at the excess of having these variables in the ecosystem. But looking at it from a holistic approach, it is actually a point whereby we have all these variables, all of them in equilibrium, so that they can actually be able to balance whatever activity is happening in the ecosystem.
A very interesting definition of biodiversity there, and I like the point that you share there. And one key word that I caught is equilibrium, which is very important. But then coming to you, Fadzai, for me, as a layperson, I would say biodiversity. Is it important for me?
Thank you very much, Owen. I would say biological diversity is very important to every citizen in Zimbabwe, and it is very important to us as youth, to us as children. Why? Because biological diversity is what we as humans use to survive. We are talking about the forests, we are talking about water, we use water. Water is there to make us survive as humans, the air we breathe. The moment the biological diversity is not protected, then you will find those ills where you find that the air we are breathing is no longer able to support human life. So I think biological diversity is very important to the ordinary person because it is what supports our life.
And just coming back, especially here in Africa and particularly here in Zimbabwe, maybe you can just break it down further for us, because usually this is seen as a European project in terms of biodiversity. In fact, in terms of the environment, most people think this is Eurocentric. But now if we bring it down home here in Zimbabwe, here in Africa, how then is it important?
All right, back to Africa. Biological diversity is important. Why? When we look at Africa, it is a region which is, it is a continent which is vested with natural resources. It has vast natural resources. And most of the African countries depend on natural resources for their economic development. So looking at biological diversity, the moment we protect it, we are able to let our children also survive from the same means. What do I mean? We're looking at minerals. They are part of the biological diversity. We're looking at animals. We're looking at wildlife. We have ecotourism, and most of the African countries are the most tourist destinations, which European countries, most of the tourists come to Africa to enjoy this biological diversity, which is in the form of wildlife. So I think it is very important for our economic development, for our economic recovery as a country.
I like the fact that you bring in the economy, but now the economy is obviously linked to young people as well. So I'm going to come to you, Diana. Your constituency, how does biodiversity affect young people?
Okay, thank you very much. Like she's earlier highlighted, I'll focus mostly on our country, Zimbabwe. If we're looking at socio-economic development, we look at the key sectors that we have for economic development in Zimbabwe, mostly agriculture, mining, tourism, and also energy. These sectors are mostly dependent on our natural resources. So as young people, how this biodiversity is important is that we are future generations. We still need to develop and also maybe increase our economic activity as a country. So it is important that biodiversity is conserved so that as young people, even for generations that are going to come, they're also going to enjoy the same benefits that the previous generations they have enjoyed in socio-economic development.
Now, I'll also come to you, Sharon, pose the same question, because you're a young person as well, and you obviously come from the same organization, Young Volunteers for the Environment. So I'll pose the same question to you. In your own view, how does biodiversity affect youth?
Biodiversity affects the youth in various ways. Firstly, like she said, sustainable development. We should use our resources, the ones that we have today, in such a way so as to preserve them for future generations. So if youths are taught how to preserve biodiversity, if youths are taught how to respect biodiversity, it will also help future generations to come, because the future is in our hands and it is up to us to preserve our environment.
Now, before I come back to Zela, I'm going to ask Diana as well. Do you think young people are understanding the importance of the environment and in particular biodiversity?
Yes, young people, I believe they are now understanding the importance of biodiversity. For example, you look at the movements that are ongoing currently across the world, especially when it comes to issues with, to do with climate change, which is one of the greatest challenges that is being faced in the world. You see that young people are actually taking the lead and advocating that we need to conserve this environment, because they understand that they are the ones that are going to benefit from biodiversity conservation, and they also understand that in future, if biodiversity is not protected, they are the ones that are going to actually face the impacts of biodiversity loss. So I think globally, youths are actually coming to the party when it comes to environmental protection and awareness. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear that youth are also coming to the party. Now, I'll just come to you, Fadzai, as well. I know that there's a campaign that you're running, the ECR campaign, under the hashtag My Planet, My Rights. Now, can you share with us, what is this about?
Okay, thank you very much, Owen. So basically, the My Planet, My Rights is a campaign which is focusing on environmental child rights. What do we call environmental child rights? So environmental child rights, we are looking at the right to a clean environment for the children. We are looking at the right to water. We are looking at the right to air. We are also looking at the right to education. So looking at the environment, I will just dwell on a recent disaster that recently happened in Chimanimani, where you find that there was Cyclone Idai. That actually had an impediment on the right to education for children because they could not go to school, mainly because they did not have shelter. So looking at the environment, when we have climate change, when we have that ills, those social ills and those environmental impacts which affect the children, then you find that most of their rights are now affected, such as right to health and right to education. So what is the My Planet, My Rights? So the My Planet, My Rights is basically a campaign to encourage government to continue putting in place policies and legislation which supports environmental child rights, which recognizes environmental child rights. Zimbabwe is already ahead. It has the constitution in section 73, which focuses on environmental rights. So already, we're already ahead. So we have a petition that we are doing. So the petition that is there, which is found on www.myplanetmyrights.com. It is a petition that you can sign. So this petition is to make sure that the UN General Committee realizes the rights to the environmental child rights. So this petition is an international petition, and in Zimbabwe we are actually you can sign it on the online, which I have just mentioned, the www.myplanetmyrights, and we also have it in hard copies for the people that do not have access to internet, putting into consideration the digital divide we have. So our rural folks who do not have access to internet can get it in hard copies and they can put their signatures. So that is the My Planet, My Rights, Owen. Over to you.
Well, I'll tell you, definitely I'll be signing that petition. Now, coming to you, Amkela, how are you supporting such initiatives by the Zimbabwe Environmental Law Association?
What I can say is that that's a good move, and as the agency, we really appreciate more and more of such a participatory approach, because what you need to understand is that the Environmental Management Act actually advocates for public participation. It's actually taking the participatory approach, whereby we believe that the management of this environment can only be done if all of us we are in it. There is no way in which you can expect somebody to do it for you, but we are part of the solution, going back to the theme. So now, looking at such a petition, it comes in handy. It actually demystifies the issue of environmental management, whereby people will want to believe that environmental management is about a sector level. It's not about a sector level. It's about everyone. It's about everyone concerned about his or her environment. So such a move from Zela is much welcome.
So definitely this issue affects each and every person who is living on this planet, in other words. We'll take a quick break, and after the break, we'll discuss how the international recognition of the right to a healthy environment promotes the protection of biodiversity. We'll be back soon.
Love me, keep me clean. Check it out, pass it on.
And welcome back to this very special broadcast. Well, today is the 22nd of May, the International Day for Biological Diversity, IDB. And I've got guests in the studio to discuss issues around biodiversity. And it's an all-ladies team and also young ladies as well. So I'm just going to start with Diana this time. And the interest or the passion in environmental issues, particularly biodiversity, what brought about the passion?
Okay. Growing up, I am someone who loves traveling a lot. I like being outdoor. I love nature a lot. So growing up, being exposed to nature and also realizing that with as time is moving, there are a lot of environmental issues that are coming up, and the world is being faced by a lot of environmental challenges. So I decided also that as a young person, I have a role that I need to play when it comes to environmental protection and also biodiversity conservation. I think this is what drove me to choose this area.
Great, interesting. Now, Sharon, I will pose it in a slightly different way. Most young people say environmental issues are a drag. In other words, they're boring. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree.
And why not?
I don't agree because there is more to the definition than what we talk about every day. Even the human environment, the one that we live in, not just the animal kingdom or the flora and the fauna and the aquatic life, but the human environment is also to talk about. So it's not really boring. There's more to talk about.
And you know what? I'll come to you, Amkela, as the Environmental Management Agency. What are you doing to promote young people, to make sure that young people are conscientized about environmental issues? Do you have any running programs at the moment?
Okay, I really don't know where I should start from, but we have got such a wide variety of programs where young people can actually take part. Actually, where we are encouraging young people to take up the lead role. Let me start off with the school going. We actually have environmental school clubs in all our institutions, not really the schools, even at college, the tertiary institutions. We also have clubs there whereby we're really trying to sensitize the young on the issues of protecting the environment, considering that this is the future generation. They benefit now, they are able to benefit tomorrow and be able to pass on to the next generation still with the same value of beneficiation. So at school, we are there, schools, we are there, tertiary level, we are there. We are also there in the communities, working with all young people's organization. Talk of the Young Volunteers Environmental group, we are working with them. I can name a number of them that we are really working with. And actually, I want young people to demystify the belief that the protection of the environment is for the old. I work with an agency that goes all over the country. We are not only in the urban areas, we are not only in front of the cameras. We are there at grassroots level, shop floor, working with the people. When you call for meetings, it's only the old that go to these meetings. And this is where I'm saying the young people, they need to talk and walk the talk, right? Let's not have them only talking. Let's also have them doing the talk. Let's see them down there, down at grassroots level. If it means that most of these organizations, probably they are in urban areas, I want to encourage them to also form institutions at grassroots level. That is where everything is happening. And what I can say in short, the young people, they are very much welcome. There are a lot of opportunities in the environmental management sector.
So there you go, young people, very much welcome. Now I'll just come back to you, Fadzai. Just before the break, we're talking about the right to a healthy environment. Now, how are you promoting the protection of biodiversity?
Thank you very much, Owen. So as an organization, we are protecting the protection of biological diversity through firstly the campaign which I have just mentioned a few minutes ago, which is focusing on climate change, extractives and waste management in urban areas. So what we are basically doing is we are organizing movements, we're organizing groups of youths. We have also realized that there is a gap when it comes to participation. You find that the adults are the ones who understand the importance of biological diversity more than the young ones. So we saw that when we catch it young, so to say, take the little ones who are in school, capacitate the environmental clubs, which Emma has just spoken about, also capacitate the youth parliamentarians, also capacitate the youth junior councils and the junior parliament as well. Why is it important? This is important because when these young ones are capacitated, they are also able to impart the same knowledge to the young ones. That's the reason why we focus on the youths, because we know that the youths, being young and energetic, the moment they realize the importance of biological diversity, the importance of tourism, the importance of mining, it is important, like what she has just mentioned, that there are a lot of opportunities. And looking at most of the opportunities that are available, they must be tapped into by youths. Looking at the National Development Strategy 1, it has a strong focus on the mining sector and also the 12 billion mining industry. And looking at the mining sector, it is very destructive in nature. And it means that our biological diversity is at threat, even though our economy is going to benefit. So we should be able to also count the environmental costs and be able to mitigate them so that we can get more gains. So what we do as well, we work with Parliament, who are the policy makers and the legislators, so that when they put in place these legislation, they make sure that there is environmental protection. For example, the Parliament Portfolio Committee on Environment, they are the ones who are able to make sure that when a mining company comes, it has an environmental impact assessment and it respects biodiversity. So that is what we focus on as an organization, to make sure that mineral resource governance takes into consideration biodiversity protection.
It's interesting that you bring in the issue of mining, which, as you rightfully say, that is as part of the government's broad policy. And now, as Emma, I'm just going to come back to you, Amkela, in terms of balancing mining and biodiversity. It seems like it's a very delicate balance. How are you managing?
Very delicate indeed. Maybe just to buttress on what she has said, yes, she's right. Mining, in as much as it remains the vital cog in our economy, it is at the same time the most destructive industry if it's not done in a sustainable manner. Maybe just to bring you to speed, if we look at the small scale, we've got the miners that are coming up. We have about 1.5 million Zimbabweans engaged in this type of mining, the small scale. I think now we call it the artisanal small scale miners, right? And unfortunately, in this industry, that's where we find a lot of distraction. Not to say in the other side of mining there is no distraction, is there. But I'm also trying to look at these that actually, coming up. We wish they could come up with best doing it in a very sustainable manner, adopting the best practices. But unfortunately, we have got a lot of distraction there, because you find that over 11,000 hectares is actually gone due to mining. And if we look at rivers, we are close to about 2,000 kilometers of rivers that are being affected. Talk of Angwa, talk of Mazoe, I can name a number of these rivers. So trying to balance, how are we doing it? This is where we go back to the act that we are enforcing, whereby we evoke the precautionary principle, whereby we try to actually talk to the prevention of the land degradation, the prevention of the degradation of the environment. And in using this principle, that's where we try to actually use the environmental impact assessment principle, which is a tool which tries to look at projects that are being, that actually want to be implemented, so that we try to scope into this project and try to look at likely impacts of this project on the environment, and in so doing try to reduce whatever impact can come out of these projects. But we are saying there are some of these projects that escape this route, and you find they cause so much harm to the environment. But otherwise, as the authority, we're working with whoever wants to implement a project which has got any likely potential to cause harm to the environment. And we are even trying to say where there are issues of affordability, because some people might say it's quite tedious, it's quite laborious. We try to tone it down so that if everyone can be able to do it. Like the small scale miners, we are now going into just a generic environmental management plan, where they just put across how they are going to manage their project so that it does not cause any harm to the environment.
Now, as you were speaking there, I picked up that artisanal miners, we've got so many young artisanal miners, and I was just thinking, as young people and your organization as well, are you also conscientizing the young artisanal miners in terms of environmental issues? Because like what Kela was just saying, there's so much land degradation. So many hectares have been destroyed, so much land has been destroyed. So are you also conscientizing your constituents?
Yes, thank you very much. As young people, okay, I'll mention the youth organization that I also volunteer for, which is Young Volunteers for the Environment. We have a program that we are starting in collaboration with Ya FM, which is in Zhishavane, because we are realizing that that is where most small-scale miners are. So the aim of this program is to raise awareness on environmental protection through radio in the mining area of Zhishavane, so that we conscientize small-scale miners that in as much as they want to get minerals, they also need to be to protect the environment and mine in a way that causes which causes least environmental degradation, because at the end of the day we want money, but also we want a safe and healthy environment to live in.
Definitely, we want a healthy and a safe environment to live in. Now, also as young people, your take in terms of environmental protection, in terms of biodiversity, we're looking at artisanal miners in this case.
Okay, so the role that we as young volunteers are also playing, paying special attention to young artisanal miners, is awareness campaigns. Some of them do not know these environmental principles that we talk about here. So by these awareness campaigns, we tell them about the effects of their actions on the environment, how they can curb those effects, and how they can regularize maybe their activity, their mining activities, so that they cannot cause a lot of land degradation. Like she said, prevention principle, it is better to prevent than to cure an already damaged environment. So it is important for us to raise awareness to these miners so that they are aware of these preventative principles and integration principles, so as to bring their activities to light, so that the EMA can, like she said, environmental impact assessments, so that they engage in those, so that they don't cause a lot of land degradation.
Well, it's all fair and fine. We're all sitting here in the comfort of the studio, but I'm looking at the artisanal miners, Makorokoza as they are popularly known. Do they receive these messages? Are you actually going there on the ground? Because as far as I'm concerned, artisanal miners are considered dangerous in some environments. They walk around with machetes. Are you also roping in the authorities, for example, the ZRP in these issues? How do you go on the ground and talk to an artisanal miner? How do you do that?
Okay.
Young people.
Okay.
Or maybe, yes, from a law perspective.
All right, thank you very much. I think what we do as an organization is, as I have mentioned before, we organize and mobilize and capacitate groups. So these miners have their groups. For example, in Zhishavane, there's the Zhishavane Miners Association. So what we do through those associations, we capacitate those associations. Then those associations are the ones who interact on a day-to-day basis with these artisanal miners. They are the ones who then do the awareness. And we also have what we call environmental child rights chapters. We have one in Zhishavane, then another in Marange, in Shurugwi, and also in Harare. So what these environmental chapters do is they raise awareness through maybe writing stories, which are posted on our website and which are also shared widely on Twitter and Facebook. And they also share stories and also do short videos and documentaries as a way of sharing this information in an easier way which the artisanal miners can understand.
And on that note, we take a quick break, and Kela will start with you after the break.
Love me, keep me clean. Check it out, pass it on. Check it out for the young and the little. Give it all for tomorrow.
Welcome Welcome back to this very special broadcast on the 22nd of May as we delve into the issues of biological diversity, otherwise known as biodiversity, on the International Day of Biodiversity. And just before the break, we had so many issues that were raised. And Amkela, you also wanted to add on to what Fadzai was saying.
Yes, what Fadzai has just said is quite true of what is happening on the ground, because we need to face reality. You did mention that most of these the artisanal small-scale miners, they actually, most of them, they are violent. So actually reaching out to them at times become very difficult, but we need to find a way to reach out to them, because the issue is about changing the behavior, changing their mindset. So as she did point out, we use their associations. That is one enabler of getting messages to these people. Other than that, at times what we usually do is to have this holistic approach of actually taking on board different stakeholders and trying to actually persuade some of these players and actually reach out to them. I've been to a situation whereby I talk to these miners when they are actually holding on to their bembas. Persuasion works. Tell them why you are there. They understand the thrust. I tell you, they listen. And they also even air out their own views, why they are doing it the way they want. But what is important is getting the messages where it is really needed.
What is important definitely is getting the message across. Now, coming back to you, Fadzai, in terms of the campaign, can you tell us more about it?
Okay. The campaign is being implemented in 3 countries. So it is being implemented in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Zambia. So what is being done by this campaign is we are mobilizing young people, and also young people to solicit signatures from everyone. So right now what we have is we have about 320,000 signatures, and we are targeting for more. So this is an international campaign, but it is being implemented by those 3 countries that I've mentioned, with Zimbabwe being the coordinator of the campaign. So these 3 countries are the ones which are representing Southern Africa. So I think this campaign is a call to action for the young people and also for even the adults, to make sure that your child is going to live in a healthy environment, which you are enjoying today. You have to also take action. How can you take action as we celebrate 22 May, the International Biodiversity Day? You can sign the petition. You can tell someone to tell someone, and also sign the petition through the online platform, which I have mentioned that it is the www.#MyPlanetMyRights. You can sign that, and for those who want to sign it as hard copies, we have our environmental chapters, which I have just mentioned. They have the hard copies, and they are doing door-to-door to try to also get signatures from people. And we also have a song from Tamimoyo, which is also going to raise awareness as well on how people can sign the petition. So that is the campaign.
Interesting that you're bringing in musicians, which young people can also, they're familiar with such musicians like Tamimoyo, and that brings, I see you smiling there, Diana. So now the next question will be, are these messages irrelevant to you as young people?
Okay, thank you. Yes, these messages are very relevant, especially to us young people, because we need to be at the forefront of protecting the environment and also conserving biodiversity, because if we do not take action, these impacts are going to affect us severely. So as young people, it is very relevant to us, because we are the future generations. We are the ones that are going to need to use these natural resources that are being destroyed by the activities that people are doing currently.
And staying with young people, Sharon, now, of course, young people are always clamoring for inclusion. Now, looking at your organization and what you're doing for the communities, looking at specifically at young people, now, what feasible actions can youths and communities carry out towards biodiversity in terms of protection?
Okay, thank you. Youths in communities can engage in cleanup campaigns. They can engage in maybe road shows to educate other youths on the importance of biodiversity. Youths can also link up with their churches, various denominations, to spread the message. It's not only economic issue or environmental issue. It should also reach out to churches and spread the word in all forms that we can. So it is important for youth to engage in these cleanup campaigns, in these road shows that we will be doing. In the musicians, the youth musicians should also take part in this campaign.
Now, I'm going to come to you, Fadzai, again, in terms of the petition. Once again, how can we access, how can we sign on as we are about to close the program?
Okay. You can access the petition on www.myplanetmyrights, and you can also get the hard copies. The hard copies are found with on Zimbabwe Environmental Law Association's page, which is www.zelainfo.org. So you can sign that online. I think it takes just 2 minutes for you to put your signature. And when you put your signature, don't forget to click on the share button, and also make sure that you share with your loved ones, because if you truly love them, you would want them to live in a clean environment.
Definitely powerful words there. Now, Kela, I like the point that Zela have got an online presence. Now, I'm just going to ask this, as Emma, how strong is your online presence?
Yes, we are very strong. Obviously, I will say that. Yes, we have a Twitter handle at Emma EEP. We have a Facebook page, Environmental Management Agents. We are there on Instagram as well. And we have a very lovely website that is also running. We also have, we can also be accessed through our toll-free numbers, which is 08000828. And also what is interesting about our availability online is that anyone can actually access our platforms. They are actually interesting to any person, despite what age group you are, because what we post there actually captivates all citizens across the age divide, if I can put it that way.
I'm not going to ask the young people whether they visited the Emma website before or their pages on Twitter, but let me just try. Have you?
Yes. Emma is actually very, very active on Facebook and also on Twitter. And as young people, as we are doing our campaigns, which actually complement the efforts of the Environmental Management Agency, we also take them, and they are very responsive.
So you've been exonerated, Kela. Great. So as we close the program, I'm just going to end with the young people for a change. Your final words, your parting shots.
Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to highlight that there are a lot of youth organizations that are there that are actually doing tangible actions on the ground when it comes to dealing with environmental challenges that we are facing. I'll just mention a few examples. We have the Zimbabwe Sunshine Group. They are into waste management. We have the African Youth Initiative on climate change. They mostly focus on climate action. And we have Advocates for Earth. Those are mostly focused on environmental law when it comes to wildlife protection. So in parting, I would like also to encourage not only young people, but also every citizen of Zimbabwe that it is everyone's responsibility to take care of the environment. As we mentioned at the start of the program, that the environment is ours. We all have something to benefit from the environment. So then we also all have a role to play in protecting environment and conserving biological diversity, because our role now, we have a duty to hand over this earth to the future generations, and what we must do is to hand it over in a way that they'll also... Can I start?
It's okay. Don't worry. It's fine.
Okay. We have a duty to hand over this earth to the next coming generations. So it is our responsibility that we hand this earth in a habitable state, that future generations are also going to enjoy the benefits that we also have enjoyed. Thank you.
Indeed, the earth is not ours. We borrow it from the future generation. Now coming to you as well, Sharon, your parting shots.
My parting shots will be: every form of life on earth deserves respect. It warrants respect, and it ought to be conserved. So as youth, I encourage youth out there and every citizen of Zimbabwe to take part in afforestation, in reforestation, in recycling, in cleaning up the environment. It all adds up to biodiversity. Thank you.
What a way to end this edition, this very special broadcast of Biodiversity, as we celebrate World Biodiversity Day on the 22nd of May 2021. Thank you very much for joining us for this very special broadcast, brought to you by ZTN in partnership with the Zimbabwe Environmental Law Association. Now it leaves me to thank my guests. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining me. And remember, we are part of the solution.
Love me, keep me clean.